Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm really happy to have you here with me today where we are going to get up to all sorts of stuff. The first thing that we need to do actually is head out to the garden and pick some onions for some bread and butter pickles that we are going to make. Down below here we have a couple of big bowls. Let me take the tin foil off so you can see what's in them. Of cut up pickling cucumbers. So we have 2 bowls this size and we are going to make bread and butter pickles out of them. I can also hear my freeze dryer beeping downstairs. It is full of zucchini and I have more zucchini to go in once we've pulled that zucchini out. So we need to get that all packaged up. What else are we gonna do? I don't know what else we're gonna get up to. We'll see what else is ready in the garden that needs to be picked. I'm sure there's something because it is that time of year where every time I go down, there is food that needs to be harvested. Before we head down to the garden, I just wanna show you this. So these are the fermented pickles with lots of garlic and dill that we fermented. We're on day 3 right now, and I just wanted to show you how it's cloudy. And that is completely normal when you're fermenting. It's been quite warm, so the fermentation is actually happening quite quickly with these. I'm not sure if you can see, give it a little shake, but there's some bubbles in there. That is totally normal. That's what you want. That's showing that there's bacteria doing what it needs to do to get these fermented. So I could probably try these now. You can actually smell the dill and the garlic already, but I'm going to give them a couple more days. Usually when it's really warm, it can be 4 days, but I like 7 because I like fairly sour pickles. You can even go up to 14 days if it's cold in your house. That's what I'm trying to say. Good grief. Oh, I wanted to show you this too. These are pH testing strips for food that I bought off of Amazon, and I thought this would be kind of an interesting thing to have when we're getting into canning all of our tomatoes for oh my gosh, for testing the pH of our tomato products to see whether we do need to add extra acid to them to bring that pH down below 4.6, which is what we want for safe canning so that we don't get botulism in our canned goods. So this is a way to 100% guarantee that we're not going to have any issues. And I'm just curious to know if the tomatoes that I grow, which are mostly heirloom variety tomatoes, are going to be acidic enough not to add extra acid. So I add extra acid via lemon juice. You can also add citric acid as well. So what I have read in pretty much any canning book on the subject of acidity is that heirloom variety of tomatoes tend to be more acidic than more commercially grown tomatoes of today are. And that's the reason why we need to add that extra acid to bring that pH level down. Is it down or up? Down. So the acidity level up, pH level down. So I'm excited to test mine and see. So that'll be a fun experiment when we get into canning our tomatoes. But right now I'm going to grab a hat because it is quite sunny and warm out there, and we're going to head outside. Okay, so let's grab a hat and my phone in case there's some beautiful pictures to take, because there usually is. And you. It's really sunny and bright out here. I'll quickly show you what he's up to before we head down to the garden, because he's in the bulldozer, of course. It's where he's been most of the summer, I feel. But he's doing some land clearing. Can you see him down there? So this is an area here that we've opened up to add some more pasture land. We're going to be running a fence down the edge of the driveway here, and he's getting it all leveled out so that we can seed it. Really excited about that. I love having this open down to the edge of the driveway there. I think it looks fantastic. We have a really exciting update to give you on the spring, but I'm going to hold that off for an upcoming video probably next week, but it's pretty darn exciting. Excuse me, young lady. You're not supposed to be over there. The chickens are not allowed to be free ranging this time of year. I'll show you why. Because they love to munch on zucchini and squash, and they can wreak havoc on the squash plants and the pickling cucumbers too, for that matter. This is one of the things that I wanted to show you. We got all the peas picked and the pea rows all cleaned out. And do you remember how I planted onions along my peas because I had nowhere else to put them and I wasn't sure how it was going to go? Well, it didn't go very well. Look at the size of those onions. So the peas obviously grew very vigorously and basically covered those onions up. So I'm kind of curious now at this point whether, now that they're uncovered, because they're still growing, they're still alive, and are going to be able to get some sun, if they're going to take off and size up at all. I'll show you the difference. So this is what these ones look like. And over here, this is what my onions along here that have received lots of sun look like, and they look fantastic. So this is what we're actually here for. We're gonna pick some of the bigger ones here. Look at that beauty. There, I think that should do us. Can you guys see down there? There's some bright pink along what will be a glorious bright pink hedge where the cosmos are planted down there. So it has taken them a long time to start blooming compared to the ones that are up over here. So these ones I started early in the high tunnel. Definitely will do that again, because these have been blooming for weeks while those other ones are just starting. Oh my goodness, friends, look at that cauliflower. What is happening? I just cannot get over my cauliflower and my broccoli this year. They're just fantastic, but that is epic. Oh my gosh. I have lots more cauliflower growing in over here, but they're probably going to be, I'm going to say 3 or 4 more days maybe before they are ready to harvest. I think I need to get my sprinkler over here. Everything's looking a little thirsty, and look at that. We actually have corn cobs on our little tiny row of corn over there. People always mention to me when I show my corn growing in a row like that, that it's better to grow it in blocks, because how your corn gets pollinated is, do you see the fronds on the top? So all of the pollen off of those have to go down and go on the silk part of the corn in order to pollinate them. I have personally found though that as long as I have 3 at least growing across the row, there is enough of them to be able to pollinate all of the corn. And I always just grow a little patch like this, more just for fun than anything. I'm never very successful growing corn. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because I grow in a row. But it more has to do with our short season. I've only had 1 successful corn growing year all of the years that I've tried growing corn. So this year I just threw in a few plants for fun. Wow, check that one out. So I left this one because it was still really tight. It still is actually. So I'll probably leave it for another day or 2. That's going to be an enormous head of broccoli. So you can see how I've taken the middle of the broccoli off, or the main the main head of broccoli off here. And there's these little side shoots that are, so if you want a continuous harvest of your broccoli, you can remove the main head, leave the plant, and it will send off some little side shoots like this that you can harvest for the rest of the summer. Oh dear, that kohlrabi needs to be picked. That is way too big. Oh my word, just gorgeous. I'm definitely going to grow this variety again. It's just called self-blanching. They're beautiful. Okay, let's continue on. It's going to be time to do another harvest of our German chamomile too. You know what, for fun, let's do a little test poll on our carrots here. Look at that beauty. Gorgeous. These are going to be beautiful. Oh, I'm so excited about this year's garden, friends. We got some nice big beets right here too. And then there are some little poppies in here that I planted along the edge of the carrots, because I did that last year and I just thought it looked so pretty. The little splashes of color in amongst all this green. Zinnia are starting to come in. Look at this pretty little patch right here. How lovely. Dill's looking gorgeous. Look at how gorgeous this dill is. I think dill is my favorite herb to grow, and my favorite as far as the aesthetic of it. Basil is probably my favorite for flavor, but dill is definitely a close second. Oh, can't you just wait until this is just a wall of color with all the sunflowers above and all the beautiful cosmos down below? I can't wait. Looks like we're going to have some green beans soon. The garden is so late this year, but we're still getting lots of good food out of it. And every time I see these beautiful calendula down here, I just can't help but to think that they look just like sunshine to me. Every time I look at them, I think sunshine. They're just gorgeous. So this is what the seed looks like, and I'll be leaving this here until it starts to turn brown and dry, and then we'll harvest that for next year's calendula. Just lovely. We have some painted daisies coming in along back here that are going to be blooming any minute. Celery is looking good. Oh, look at the nasturtiums. Aren't they beautiful? I always plant nasturtiums at the end of my rows. And then look what has happened over here. The pumpkin plants have just gone crazy, and we have lots and lots of pumpkins hiding in here. This is the reason that I cannot let the chickens out, because they'll come peck these and ruin them in no time. There's another one down there. No trip to the garden is complete without going to the high tunnel. Am I right? We always need to go check out the high tunnel. I have something very exciting to show you in there, actually. It's kind of blown away that this is growing. So it is going to be time for me to top my tomato plants here, because these flowers don't have much chance of actually producing tomatoes. So it takes around 20 days or so from the time a tomato plant flowers like this to actually producing a full-size fruit, and then it takes usually another 10 days or so to ripen said fruit. So all these ones, of course, are going to have more than enough time to size up and ripen, but these guys probably won't, because our temperatures start dropping and we usually get frost at the beginning of September. I could not be happier with the amount of tomatoes on these plants. Oh dear, what happened here? I think we better fix this. Oh my goodness. Hopefully that's gonna hold. I think I'm going to need to put a little bit of support along here for these peppers. I've never grown large enough pepper plants before to warrant trellising, but this year seems to be an exception, and I'm here for it. And I've never had this happen where the head is so heavy that the plant fell over, but there's still bumblebees on there, so we'll just leave it. Got to give you an update on our melons. Look at that. Look at all the melons. Oh my word. That is so exciting. I am fairly confident that we are going to actually get ripe melons this year. Check this out. Can you see the little artichoke flower with all the ants? The ants really love the artichokes, but there's an artichoke flower down there, friends. I have to admit to that completely shocking me, because if you remember back when I planted these, I planted them way late. I was supposed to start them at the end of February, and I don't think it was until the end of March, early April that I actually started them. So I didn't expect anything, but we're gonna actually get artichoke, which even if it's just one, I feel like that is a huge win for a northern garden. That and the melons, very big win. My green stalk is very thirsty. I'm gonna have to water that. Don't let me forget to water that, my friends. I need to come down and do that. I think Greenstock is actually having some sort of sale. I don't know what the sale is. I can't remember, but they are having a sale right now if you're interested in one. Like I've said many times, I absolutely love them. The only thing that I will say is I'm not really used to container gardening. I usually plant in ground, is that they require quite a bit of watering. They do dry out in the hot sun. They actually need to be watered every day. But outside of that, and the regular fertilizing, of course, like most container plants, they're absolutely fantastic. So you'll notice something a little bit different here. So this is my herb bed growing in right here. And I normally have a giant Russian tarragon. And when I say giant, I mean giant, filling in basically this whole area, probably about 5 feet high, and filling it out to the point where I couldn't get down the stairs or into the high tunnel or with the greenhouse, the little greenhouse, without having to push through it all. So what I've decided to do, I harvested what I wanted off of it, is I'm going to actually move it to a new location because it also completely shades out my little herb bed here, and it's already so much happier since taking it out. So definitely want to find another location for that because I do like this little curved herb bed here. Okay, where did we put our onions? There they are. So excited about the sea buckthorn. It's just loaded. Oh my goodness, look. They're starting to ripen. That is amazing. So this is going to be the first year I am able to harvest sea buckthorn or sea berry. That's another name for them. So exciting. Elderberry flowers looking stunning and they smell so good. Okay, now we can go back inside and do some canning. Okay, let me show you what we're going to use for this recipe. We're going to use ground turmeric, mustard seed, celery seed, organic cane sugar, and some pickling vinegar. All right, we have our onions all cut up here. I am going to measure out, we'll probably do a double batch, so 20 cups of our wow. I don't know what is going on, friends, with the connection between my brain and my mouth today, but I am struggling. Of our pickling cucumbers. So we're gonna go 20 cups of these. We need 8 cups of our onions. So we're gonna grab our big pot over here. I have been using the Clubhouse pickling spice for years and years and years, but he said the last 2 years there has been an off flavor, like some type of herb or seasoning that they're putting in that he's not liking. So I decided that I would do this recipe, which is the traditional bread and butter recipe out of the Complete Book of Home Preserving. So hopefully, because this recipe only has the mustard seed, celery seed, and turmeric for the flavoring, and I use all 3 of those actually and lots of other things, and he doesn't mind those. So I'm not sure, I haven't checked to see what it is that they've changed in their seasoning mix, but either way, we're not going to use it this year. We're going to try this recipe and see what Dan thinks of that, because bread and butter pickles are actually his favorite pickles, so I want to make sure that we have a recipe that he likes. So the first thing that we're going to do is, these were salted and left to sit. This is the second batch. So I had a batch going at the end of the last video. I already dealt with that one. This is another batch. So I only had these sitting with a little bit of salt for about 3 hours or so just to drain the liquid out. Now I'm going to rinse them off. Okay, so we're going to measure out 20 cups into our pot. So we actually ended up with 42. So I'm going to go grab another pot so I can divide this into 2 separate batches. Okay, half and half. And now we'll half and half with our onions. So in the case of this recipe, the salt is a flavoring, not part of the preservation. So it's the vinegar that's actually preserving these. So I am not going to add the full cup because it should be a full cup of salt, but that is going to make these way too salty for this double batch. But we are just going to add half a cup in each of these pots. And then we need 6 cups of vinegar. So just for the fun of it, let's test this vinegar here and see how these strips work. Okay, so there's what we got for color. So we're at 1. So we need 4.6 or less, so 1 is definitely within what's excuse me, what's safe. So we need 6 cups of vinegar per batch here. And we need 4 cups of sugar per batch. So these are obviously a sweet pickle, so if you don't like sweet pickles, this is not the recipe for you. Now we need 4 tablespoons of mustard. So I'm just dividing what I have here between these two because it's gonna be close. 2 teaspoons of celery seed. And 2 teaspoons of turmeric. Now, when you're making pickles like this, it's going to look like you don't have enough brine when you go to heat it up, but quite a lot of liquid is still going to come out of those cucumbers and those onions, and I promise you'll end up with the right amount of brine in the end. So now we're going to bring these over to the stove, and whilst those are coming up to temperature, we're going to go grab our freeze-dried zucchini out of the freeze dryer and get it packaged up. So here is our freeze-dried zucchini. It's quite satisfying. So most of the stuff that I freeze dry, I put into my long-term food storage. So that's kind of in case of an emergency food. Freezer space is kind of a hot commodity around here, especially this time of year, because our freezers are full of chicken. We have 2 beef that we're going to be doing. We have pork in there. So they're really full. So I do like to have frozen zucchini for muffins and things like that throughout the winter. But since that space is taken up right now, I decided I would freeze dry it in these, or freeze dry it and then put them into these smaller packages so that I could pull these out when I wanted to make muffins. So I'm going to use about 2 cups worth per bag. I could fit way more in there if I wanted to crush it down, but I actually want to reconstitute this for things like muffins, so I don't want it to be completely lacking structure. Again, the freeze dryer pretty much runs non-stop this time of year with all kinds of stuff going into it. It's going to be filled up with onions soon. I had somebody ask me the other day when I was freeze drying broccoli whether it made the freeze dryer smell, because she had heard that people said that once you freeze dried either broccoli or onions that it was almost impossible to get the smell out. I haven't noticed that to be an issue at all, actually, but also I'm not super picky about stuff like that, so maybe if you were really sensitive to smells, that would be something to keep in mind with your freeze dryer. But I don't know if anybody else out there has a freeze dryer and has found that to be an issue, but I do onions, garlic, broccoli, all that kind of stuff all the time. Okay, so these are oxygen absorbers, and they just remove the oxygen from the bag. And then in order to preserve these ones, I just take the ones out that I want, and whoops, there we go. And then I seal this back up again so that I can reuse these ones. Easy peasy. Okay. Okay, now we got all those sealed up. Clean up our big mess we made here. Okay, I'm gonna stir in our pickles and our onions. These ones, by the way, taste as bread and butter pickles should. They don't have any weird flavor in them. There's always this shift that happens in my garden this time of year because the nighttime temperatures start cooling off in August. And sometimes we will even get a light frost by the end of August. Although looking at the forecast, it doesn't look like we are trending towards that because we still have pretty warm temperatures. But there is always this shift where things slow down quite a bit, and I'm already noticing it happening with the pickling cucumbers. So we are supposed to have another week or so of good heat. So I'm hoping to get kind of another, I don't know, 2 or 3 rounds out of my pickling cucumber patch so that I can really get stocked up for winter. Hang on, sweetie, I'll let you out in a sec. So one batch from that recipe gave me 6 and a bit quarts here. Perfect amount of brine though. So we're definitely going to want to debubble these, make sure that we don't have any air trapped in there. A good 3/4 to an inch of headspace. All right, friends, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty with when I was filming the rest of the canning process. And so I'm just gonna have to tell you what I did. So I just washed the lids or washed the rings off really, really well because there's lots of sugar in that recipe. So we wanted to make sure there wasn't any sticky residue left on there. Then we lidded them up and we canned them in the steam canner for 10 minutes. And we ended up with, I think it was 18 quarts. You can see them over there. I'll show you closer up. But they look beautiful. They taste really good. I actually opened a jar up this morning after they'd had a chance to sit just to try them to see if they were good, and they are very good. I do think I'm going to cut the amount of turmeric down a little bit because unless you really like the flavor of turmeric, because it can be a little bit bitter, I would cut it down a little bit more, but I do like the yellow color that it gives the pickles. But other than that, they're absolutely fantastic. And I was looking at the fermented pickles this morning, and I do think we can probably try them. So we're now on to day 4. Okay, they smell good. Okay, let's give it a try. Good, but not quite there yet for me. Another few days for sure. I do like my fermented pickles to be quite sour. I mentioned that before. So these definitely need a few more days. They taste good, but not nearly sour enough for me. All right, friends, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.